Hello, people. My name is Lee Cole, and I'm here with my partner, James Proctor. James, how are you today?
Hey, doing well, Lee. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. And we have our good friend Tommy Stiggs here. And Tommy comes in and helps us out because he's pleasant and he doesn't pretend he's a know it all. He's your average Joe, as far as I'm concerned, and he's a credit to the show. Tommy, how you doing?
I am good. Hope you guys are well.
We are.
Doing well.
And Tommy, you're here because we're starting a show today, and it's called Mob Targets. And we're going to talk about guys that have gone to prison, made no excuses, they took their sentences, and they came out and moved on in their life. And people don't realize that there are quite a few guys like that. People don't talk about them. They rather talk about the informants or the guys that die in prison. So, James, what do you think about that topic?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we definitely always talk about is the people that do rat, the people that do inform. And so, but what about the people that take their punishment like a man? They do their time. They get back to their lives after prison. Hopefully, if as long as they didn't have a life bid. And so, when we look at Joey Merlino, he's had three different stints in prison, and he has been able to, you know, get past that and move on with his life. And he's never ratted. And so, to me, I think it's worth that we spend a little time on those that do it the correct way.
And Tommy, what do you think about that?
I like that. I think it's very interesting. The reason the rats are getting, or the informants or whatever they are getting more exposure is that those are the ones that are out here. You're hearing their stories left and right, and they feel the need to, explain or however they want to say it. But the guys that walked away from it, they are out there, and there are many. But you don't hear from them that much because they just don't put their story out there just as much as a rat does because they need the validation. The rats and the informants need the validation. It's kind of like a coping mechanism that's in them to try and make them feel a little better. So a guy that walked away from it, totally different mindset. It's a totally different mindset, and it's there's not that many there. So the ones that do, the ones that do,
I'm sorry, Tommy.
the ones that do, the regular folks can relate to the ones that do. They know what they did. They did their time. They had their convictions, and they moved along. And they don't need validation from anybody. But when they come out, are more relatable to the regular person. So that's why it's nice to do something like you're doing here to recognize that, or however, whatever this platform is, whatever this new segment of your show is. It's a good thing because the regular folks, whether they are interested in the mob life or not, the regular folks will be more interested in that. Kind of like an underdog making it out. You know what I mean?
And see, so Joey was a little guy. He wasn't a big guy. So he probably had to fight a little bit harder. And then he had to live up to his father's reputation. And so people, so why don't you tell us some stuff about his father? We'll start with you first, James.
Yeah. So his father was born in Atlantic City. He was there, and he also knew. He was close with little Nicky Scarfo, so they were actually friends for a long time, and I know that in fact in the early '60s, believed that Scarfo and Merlino actually got accused of, there was a stabbing murder of a guy, and they got accused of it, and so. Believe Merlino got acquitted, and then Scarfo somehow got convicted of manslaughter in the case. But anyway, the Merlino had a brother that was also in that life as well, and so what you see with Joey, the son, is that he comes from a lineage of people that were part of that Philly crime family.
And it's not like that. These were guys. that put a golden spoon in his mouth. I mean,
Well,
his father was a hard-nosed guy who was the underboss under Scarpa. He
Mhm.
had a drinking problem,
yeah,
and his mom even talked about it because she had to deal with her son and her father being in prison at the same time.
yeah,
So it's not an easy life. It's not like Joey Merlino is some type of punk, and he's going to come on here, and then you're going to have these informants start attacking him. It's probably like a joke to him. Wouldn't you say that, Tommy?
Yeah, absolutely. He just brushed. He doesn't give him any relevance. He might mention it here and there on his shows. He does it, but other than that, they're irrelevant to him. And it's just, yeah. So he's 61, so he's a little older than me, but he's definitely a throwback to a time period that has been gone before his time. He's a good
yeah.
guy.
Yeah, and
You know what I mean?
I like what you're saying about him being an underdog. I think
Oh yeah.
that's something that to me that's my takeaway with
Look.
Joey Merlino. He's an underdog.
Yeah, he climbed up through it, and he climbed up through it. His father was a stand-up guy, just as much stand-up as you're going to get, because he took a 45-year sentence
45-year sentence. Yeah.
and died. I think he died in 25 years in, I believe.
Yeah, he died in 2012. Actually,
I think he was in
yeah,
there 25 years when he died.
Yeah.
I can be a little
yep,
off
he
on that.
was.
Remember,
And that's
I
the
don't.
funny thing. One of the excuses that you'll hear from informants quite a bit is, "I got shelled and they took everything. They took everything away from me." You'll hear that all the time, and they'll use that as an excuse of why they turned.
Nah.
So his father got shelled,
Yes, he
got
did.
everything taken away from him, went to trial, and got sentenced to 45 years. And his father did not use it as an excuse to become an informant, did he, Tommy?
I don't think he got shelved. I think he got demoted. But even if he got shelved, he still wouldn't do it. I don't think he got shelved. I think he might have
Yeah, it was
gotten demoted.
demoted, but
Yeah,
basically
he had
he
issues
got
with
in
a
trouble.
pagan.
Well, that group knows how it works.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And they take it as it comes. If it's being demoted, promoted, shelved, which they typically don't do there, they roll with it. They are solid to it. And if it's somebody is putting you in a different position, there's good reason for it. It just doesn't happen. It's they're going to clip you first before they shelve you. It's very simple. That's what I think anyway. It's
yeah. But I think the point is that he did his time, and so Joey. The thing is that Joey, he had a father. He came from that royalty. But the thing is, he had his challenges too, because he could have easily, been killed. They tried 24 times to get rid of him. They abused. To me, there was the way they treated his father wasn't right, and then there was this issue with between Scarfo and the Merlino family. And so the thing is that it didn't come easy. It was very, is definitely, in some ways he's lucky or was somehow smart enough to keep from, getting killed.
Who? Joey?
Joey.
He was just determined. No matter what
Yeah.
was happening, he had the
Right.
determination, and he knew what
Eventually, they expanded the charges to 3 murders and 2 attempted murders. And he fought the trial. And when he fought the trial, people thought he was crazy and he didn't stand a chance.
Right.
I mean, with those murder charges standing over him, but he was found innocent on 3 murder charges and stuff. But like the feds always do, they come back with good old conspiracy and racketeering and sentence you there. So that's what they wind up getting him on. So
Right.
does that? So when you're thinking about this, you're talking about 3 murders. He was willing to take it to trial, and everybody else around him would take him pleas. So he rolled the dice. I guess it's part of being a gambler, huh, Tommy?
It's not that he rolled the dice. He looks at his discovery. Was there witnesses in that case or no?
I have no idea.
All right, that's a big thing. So when you're prepared to go to trial, you look over your discovery and you see here's the evidence against me, and that he probably was going to fight regardless. But that makes it, you look through there and you're like, okay, I could this, I could do that, I could fight against that. this is a little tough, but I'm going to take a shot with this. Depending on what evidence they have stacked against you, that's what comes out in your discovery. You see your whole case in your discovery. So you know who's going to take the stand against you, if any were. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this was, to me, it was a big gamble because that's the case where Natalie agreed to cooperate. That was also, there were several of the people that were close to Merlino made that decision to cooperate with the government.
Okay, hold on. Let me interrupt you 1 minute. 1 second. Cooperate against him in the bodies or just in a racketeering aspect?
So this was the initial charge.
That's where it gets a little funny, right? Okay,
right, because the initial part was the drug trafficking, and then it got expanded.
Organized crime stuff. I got it. Yes.
Right.
But the bodies is what I'm talking about. So Lee's saying 3 bodies were brought up in this case. Did he have somebody coming in to testify against him on the 3 bodies, or just as a racketeering conspiracy? That's where the discovery tells you, okay, I got 3 witnesses that say they were with me when I pulled the trigger. I'm going a little deeper than that. But
let's put it this way: the prosecution was very sure they were going to convict him on him, and it backfired them. They didn't convict him. That's what it comes down to.
Right.
Right. But
and Natalie agreed to cooperate in order to escape his drug trafficking. Is what it comes down to in Natalie.
But you're saying he took a shot, like, oh man, he got lucky, he took a shot. He strategically planned this case. He strategically went in there as a defendant. He knew what he was facing. He felt like he had a shot. So he calculated his trial. He did not just go in there and say, pot luck, it's up to the jury. He really dug, I'm going to guess, I wasn't there, obviously. He definitely dug into his discovery, all the evidence. He had meetings with his attorneys. And he took a shot, and maybe he had a feeling he was going to get convicted of the racketeering aspect, because that's easier to prove than a body is, especially if you don't have a witness.
Right, exactly. And when they sentenced him to a 14-year sentence, Joey Merlino said,
better than life,
better than the death penalty,
better than life.
I mean, so I
don't even know that.
There he is. He's going in for 14 years. He accepted the 14 years. He realizes that he's a young guy yet. He's still going to go do his 14 years. And he did do it.
He did do it.
And because we have guys on here that were looking at 10-year sentences and stuff that became informants. Yeah. Guys on here right now, guys that were big gangsters, actual real gangsters that became informants because they were looking at like 5 years, 10 years. Some of them weren't even looking at these murder charges.
I don't think it's the time. I don't think it's the time that made these guys flip. I think there's a little more to it. They have an emotional weakness somewhere in their body and their brain and their heart and soul. They're not that first generation of nuts and bolts. So they didn't. I don't think these guys went bad because of the time. I think there's more to it than that.
Well, you got a good point there, Tommy, because Angel Gotti will say, when they lock you up and they put you in by yourself and they put you in where you can't see nobody, they're basically breaking you. Some guys are able to survive that lockup, and some guys can't. They break right away. And the feds know that. They want to put you in solitary confinement. They want to see who could take it and who can't. Wow. And so many guys break in solitary confinement.
Yeah, the shoe or solitary, it's called. It's either the shoe or solitary. I think the shoe is where you go and you're really like you're alone. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I think there's more to it.
Well, let me ask you something, Tommy. You went on trial, am I correct?
I didn't go. I took a plea. I pled guilty. I didn't go to trial. I was prepared to go to trial, but yeah.
Did you ever have it in you did you have the opportunity to testify if you wanted to about something?
Of course. Every defendant does.
And it never crossed your mind, right?
I was facing a 5-year max, a 9-month minimum, and I knew that I had a good chance of getting convicted and going for 5 years, and I was willing to try it. Not even a thought. Not even a thought. And that's small time compared to what these guys do. But It's still in the brain. It's in the body. It's in the mind. It's in the soul. And it was my best friend that went against me. So did that make me? No. You're in this life. These guys are in this life. You got to take it.
Charges of years with the law and the trials and all that stuff. Do these guys realize that they can't poke this guy at all? Nothing that they say is going to ever bother him.
How can you hurt him? Can't. He can't hurt the guy.
He was looking at real charges. He was looking at lifetimes in prison.
Yeah, yeah. That last one that we're talking about from 2016, that was a weird one, because it seemed to me that the government was really trying to, even though there were 45, 46 people that were part of that indictment, I think that it seemed like that Joey Merlino was the one that was really after. And so it was just all these broad charges that were brought against him. And so my understanding is he was the only one that actually went to trial on that. I think everyone else, all the 45, 46 people, actually did a plea bargain on it. And then I believe the first trial, there was a mistrial. And then somehow I think Joey Merlino ends up agreeing to something to do with gambling with a phone or a electronic computer or something. So, it's just interesting to me how the government just continued to, go after him. And then it's kind of like John Gotti Jr. They did the same thing, in the 2000s. End up having 5 trials, and fortunately in this case, Merlino, I think, made the right decision. Yeah, I'll go ahead and say that I did some sort of illegal gambling thing, and so he got like a year sentence or something. So to me, again, he's high profile. The government was looking for a way to, they just wanted to convict him. And again, the indictments were just broad, and it was very, very hard to pin down, but all the other people did a plea.
That was
when you beat the government continuously, they're going to come after you. They're going to come after you hard.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's obvious the government's going to be watching them to this day? Because let's face it, this is just a few years ago. This ain't like 30 years ago that this stuff went on. And when the government wants you, they made a big deal. They made a big deal when this picture came out, and he's standing next to Trump and he has his thumb up. It's like then all of a sudden it's all over the media, all over the press, and it's just, and like Joey said, I was just taking a picture with the guy, standing next to him and put my thumb up. The next thing you know, everybody's like thinking that Donald Trump is hooked up with Joey Merlino.
In that last case, he was charged alone, right? Standalone charge. The last case that you were saying about the gambling or something.
Oh, yeah, he was the only one to go to trial. All the other people actually pled out on it. And so that initial trial that was dealing with Medicare fraud and racketeering and all that, there was like 45 or 46 people got charged.
Right.
And so all of them but
after that, though,
Joey, all of them but Joey took a plea. Joey Merlino actually went to court and tried to fight it. The first trial ended in a mistrial, and then to avoid a second trial, he did this thing where he agreed to some sort of
electronic. It was an electronic device.
Yes.
But when he agreed to the electronic device, he must have had a deal worked out, because the U.S. attorneys dropped the remaining charges and recommended a prison sentence at that time, 10 to 16 months. And at that time, you're thinking, and what's 10 to 16 months to a guy that's been sitting in prison for over a decade, more, close to 2 decades?
Yeah, and just to be done with it, basically, after that. He knew he was going to be done with it after that. Right. That mind was already made up at that time already, what his path in life was going to be after that. So that's the way I see it, I think. Wow, interesting.
Yeah, so I wanted to go over those cases because I didn't realize nothing about these cases. I just started studying them. So, of course, I don't know everything. I'm going to get some stuff wrong. but when you read these cases and you read about his father's in prison, he's in prison. And I just wanted to explain to these guys, these informants that couldn't handle the time, that are going after him. You have to understand, they tried to kill this guy. They put bombs underneath his car. They killed his buddy next to him. He went to prison. He did some serious time. They got him all sorts of murder charges that he was found innocent of, or he wasn't convicted on. When you go through that in life, how do you look at other stuff? I mean, being serious. I mean, that just eats up your life. And then, $5 million bail, and then how much money do you have to pay for these lawyers? And it goes on and on and on.
A lot. He could have just threw the towel in, but he was. Yeah. This is the life he chose, and that's what he was going to do to the end.
Yep.
Okay, so James, what do you think about that?
Can you imagine going through all of this time, doing all of this time? Your reputation is flawless. Your father dies a legend in prison. After all of that, you in the streets, your reputation's written in stone at that point. And then just because something went wrong, you give up all of those values, all those principles, all of that you grew up with and built your reputation on, and just throw it away. Because why? Because you feel bad?
No, here's
not the time. Hold on. Yeah. Lee, I don't think it's the time. I got to say that one more time. I don't think it's the time they were afraid of. I think something else happened to make these guys turn. I don't know what, but that's just my
I have a theory on it. I have a theory. One thing about Joey Merlino, he's got mental fortitude. I call it mental fortitude. He has the ability to handle, any sort of adversity and not fold. And so here's the deal with these people that are informants. I think for the most part, it's something that's ingrained in them as individuals. I'm not saying they're born that way, but their environment created that. And what I mean by that is that you have people that, the thing is, if you're going to make that decision to take your time, as a man, go to prison, that means that you're thinking of other people besides yourself. Okay. Most of the people that make that decision, all right, let's look at Sammy Gravano. I don't believe he was ever considered Cosa Nostra important. He never understood Cosa Nostra to that degree. What he saw was an opportunity to get ahead. He was an opportunist. And so a lot of these informants, in my opinion, are opportunists. They're self-centered. They do not want to, they're more concerned about themselves. And I understand that's a little simplistic because people have families, they've got all that type of stuff, but also they made that decision to go in that line. But the thing is that these same people are going to lie about what what their other friends did and people that were in that life did. They will lie, and the government will encourage them to do that, right? And then after that, they will get they'll get a sweet deal from the government, because the government's usually only looking to they just want to get someone convicted. Yeah. It's usually one person, it's someone at the top. They want to get the top guy. And so what happens to the informant? They get out, and again, this is part of the only thing they're concerned about is their survival, their selfish motivations. They're going to continue to commit criminal acts. That's what happens in many of these cases, in most of these cases. And that's something that Joey Merlino's been expounding on in his podcast.
Yeah, that's interesting. See, the guys are not reformed. The guys that are used as witnesses, they are still criminals. They still have a criminal mind.
Of course.
They didn't go through a program to change their mindset. They're still criminals. And you could see it. They're just trying to hold back from not committing that crime, but it's in their brain. It's in their soul.
Doubt.
They have that criminal mind. Yes, they got a guy off the street that they wanted off the street. They put a guy on the street that still has a criminal mind. What has been accomplished here?
Well, they're looking at taking over so what they're looking for is that they're looking to, what is it called? Like a person that what they do is that you see these criminals, they're always looking for an angle. They're looking for ability to be able to get one over on them. And they do that with the government. I mean, they laugh at the government when they start when they get thousands of dollars a month of living expenses and all that. They laugh about it because they're going to continue.
They do it all the time. They go on these podcasts and all the time said, "Oh, I got this much from the government."
Yeah.
But, you know, good point, Tommy. You made a good point about these guys do not change. And I'm going to tell you something. I seen it close up. I seen when Sammy Gravano's son came at me in the car. Sammy Gravano had, if you could see the looks on Sammy Gravano's eyes. And I remember him saying to his son, pull him out of the car. And this is a 78-year-old man. And all of a sudden you could see his old light. It's like it was turning him on. It's like, wow, okay. In a way, he was kind of glad this was going down because he's a killer. You don't lose that killing gene. You got that gene to kill.
He reverted back. He's like, here goes another rodeo. Let's do it.
Yes, and then he said on his show last week, he said, if Lee Cole did this back in the day, we would have put him in the towel. I would have invited him in the towel. He's been nice to him. The guys would have went in the back and got the tarp, and then someone would have put a bullet in his head.
He said,
Sammy, Sammy said this 2 weeks ago about me.
Oh my God.
On his show, on his live.
I don't watch him, so I don't know. Wow.
Yeah, he said it on his live. So here I am. I'm just a regular Joe doing shows. He never mentions any regular Joes. He doesn't even mention guys that go after him. No. But for some reason, he mentions me, says me by name, and he talks about how he would kill me in tallies.
Unbelievable. Yeah, so the mind is still programmed that way, right?
I found it fascinating. People say, oh, Sammy said this about you. I was like, well, that's interesting because Sammy doesn't talk about anybody except the Gottis. He doesn't talk about these other guys that go after him. Mm-hmm. Guys that were in the life. So it's something. With these guys, if you click something in them, they want to kill you because they're killers.
That's what I mean. Nothing changed. They didn't go. It's not like they went to rehab. They just got off the street and pulled another criminal move on a fellow criminal. And you could see they're capable of committing a crime at any moment. They are on the edge. They're one shot of whiskey away from committing another crime. There's no doubt.
But what does the government expect? Are they that naive to think that they won't do that? So you get an informant, you get someone that decides to cooperate. Okay, they get a sweet deal. So how's that going to cause them not to continue with their criminal behavior? I guess what the government's thinking is, wow, they've got a second chance, so they're not going to blow it. Well, they are going to blow it, and the thing is, the government doesn't do any sort of rehabilitation. They don't do anything for these people. So the thing is most of the time, people's going to repeat what they've done before in their life, and so why do they expect something different this time? So.
Yeah, you're keeping an animal on the street. You're taking it. You say you're taking an animal off the street, and you're keeping an animal on the street. What are you doing for the people at that point? Really, what are you doing for the people at that point? Nothing.
So you're going to get 20 or 20. You're going to get 10, 15, 20 people to cooperate. So you put one away. You know,
right.
That doesn't make much sense.
So what is our government? Our government, I guess you can say, right? What are they doing for we the people? They're doing nothing. It's just a waste.
And I'd like to make a quick correction here, Tommy. You were absolutely right. Joey Merlino was not shelved. He was demoted, and Scarfo did not want to deal with him ever again. That's basically what happened. It wasn't a so I appreciate you correcting me on that.
No problem. Yeah.
We lost our partner.
That's all right.
Yeah, so but you know, this is what is fascinating stuff because you know, you guys made a good point. These informants, they're sent back out on the street the same way they came into prison as criminals.
Yeah. Same. No difference.
No changes whatsoever.
Nothing. And we're seeing it. We're not going to get into situations, but
we see a lot. 90% of them.
We're seeing it happen.
They'll go on these shows and they'll talk. You know, when they talk about what they did, they'll say stuff. I want to help the children now, but none of them mean it.
Bullshit. I'm not.
How many of them say I want to help the children? every once in a while, James Proctor calls me up and says to me, Lee, I want to help the children. I say, James, you listen to John A. like too much. Yeah, so James, I was saying to Tommy, a very good point there. All these guys that become informants, they never do nothing to take that criminal mind away from them. They still got that criminal mind when they're releasing these criminals back onto the streets. Is what they're doing.
Right. They are.
You got a fan running over there?
Not sure, but okay. I got disconnected. But let me try to.
You're good now. You're good.
So the so it makes sense. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, so okay, so Tommy, I appreciate you coming on today, and I'm gonna fix this up and then put it out.
Yep.
Is there anything you got anything planned coming up?
No, I'm just doing my thing, my regular shows. I had Snuff on last week. We had a great sit down, me and him. So we had a good sit down. It was nice.
You got some good numbers on that too, I noticed.
For me, yeah, 4,200 on it.
Yeah, they're really good numbers.
And I don't typically do stuff like that, but
no, that's great.
We've been talking so much and we've become friends. So he's really a good kid. They have a nice group over there. Kevin Conley, Joey Merlino, and Snuff. They have a great. They have a good thing.
Okay, I just want to put this up, people. Please subscribe, hit the like button and the reminder bell, and we appreciate everything that you do for us. Also, you can join Angel Gotti's My Father's Patreon page, My Father's Daughter Patreon page, and we are also part of that. And all those links will be underneath this, including Tommy Stiggs. Tommy, I've given you a permanent spot underneath my channel, so your link will always be underneath any of my shows.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
Okay. And with that, I'd like to say thank you to everybody. James, anything you want to say before we go out?
No, Tommy, I appreciate you joining us today, and was really like the content that you're doing, and you have a great perspective on what's going on with the folks up in South Philly and in Jersey. So I appreciate whenever you can give us your insights. So thanks again.
Always willing to come out with you guys and sit down. Yes, absolutely.
We appreciate it. I'm going to turn this off.